Anybody on staff with roll call who can see how many of the committee are here?
Yeah, Jed, Lily is on, so Lily could at least start roll call for you.
Okay.
Looks like we've got at least 6. I can't identify some of the phone numbers.
Why don't you call names and then we can see how many of the committee are here?
Okay. And Allison is trying to log on. I think she was on the other link. So she just called me. She's trying to log on. So we'll go get started. Commissioner Allman?
I'm here. I'm on phone, not video.
Commissioner Angelo?
Commissioner Angelo is absent by arrangement.
There's people from all over. Yeah. There's guys from the coast.
Commissioner Barish?
Here.
Commissioner Diamond?
Here.
Commissioner Myrtle?
Here.
Commissioner Miller?
Here.
Commissioner Liberty?
Here.
Commissioner Riley?
I'm here.
Commissioner Weir?
Here.
Commissioner Rich?
I am here.
And Chair Moschetti.
Well, I count 9 people that are here, not counting Donna, so I believe that's a quorum. So
Yep.
we could at least conduct business and decide what we want to do. Is that correct?
Yes.
As long as we don't
You're
have
the
a
boss,
Brown
man.
Act.
Okay, well,
You're it, Jed.
yeah, we clearly have a quorum. It's not clear to me whether, given that we can actually conduct business, there's obviously an agenda that has some interest from the community. We've gotten a number of written informational packets from community. I see a number of community people are on, and yet we know that there's people that wanted to be here that couldn't be here. So my inclination would be to postpone until we can get, our chair here and the full committee and be able to have community represented who want to be here but can't be here today. Is there any discussion about that?
I think we ought to go. There's a lot of people here who took time out to be here. I think we're ready, fire, aim. Let's go, man.
I agree with that decision. I have a lot of issues with this particular agenda. Nonetheless, it was posted properly, and we do have a significant number of members of the community who obviously tuned in for it, and we do have a quorum of the board.
Okay. Any objection then to continuing and going through the agenda? Okay, I'm hearing no objections. I don't have, because of I didn't have the agenda in front of me, so I may need to have somebody else. Shannon, perhaps you could do that, and just give the agenda items so we can go through them.
The first item on the agenda, Jed, is public expression on non-agenda items. Would you like me to read the message that's on the agenda?
Sure.
Members of the public are welcome to address the committee on items that are not listed on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the committee. The committee is prohibited by law.
No, go, no.
If I could please ask that anyone who's not actively speaking mutes their phones, that'll help the meeting go a little more smoothly. Thank you. The committee is prohibited by law from taking action on matters not on the agenda, but may ask questions to clarify the speaker's comments. The committee lists testimony on matters not on the agenda, limits testimony on
think
matters.
that's Allison, I have no idea. I had assigned Janine as host, and then when I am Joy looked up and.
So we still have some people who are not muted. Thank you. The committee limits testimony on matters not on the agenda to 3 minutes per person and not more than 10 minutes for a particular subject at the discretion of the chair of the committee. To best facilitate these items, please write your topic to Measure B at mendocinocounty.org. All the meetings are recorded. Once your item is announced, please state your first and last name.
Okay, thanks, Shannon. So are there any people that would like to speak to items not on the agenda. And again, I'll need some help to be able to see who's raising their hand or identifying yourself, or if you don't get recognized and you want to speak, just go ahead and we'll try to navigate through this together.
Jed, I have a question. This is Ted Williams.
Ted, go ahead.
Is this meeting being recorded?
I don't know that.
I think the answer is no. Normally I see the record indicated on the stream and I don't see it now.
So the meeting can't be recorded through Zoom. That's actually county doesn't allow, but it is being recorded and it is live feeded, recorded on YouTube.
Thanks. Withdrawn.
Thank you. Okay, any non-agenda items that anybody from the community would like to speak to? Okay, hearing
I
that.
have an item.
Go ahead. Who is it?
This is John Wetzler, Little River.
Okay, John, go ahead.
I just a quick question, and when I was listening to public comment, I wanted to make sure that after each agenda item, the public can comment. Is that true or false?
Yes,
that's
sorry,
good.
Jed, I'm usurping. I am in.
Oh,
Thank you
good.
ver-
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yes, after every item, provided I remember, which people will remind me, yes, there is community comment after every item.
Great. I'll still, with my 3 minutes, I wanted to continue.
Please do.
John Wetzler again. Glad you're on, Donna. I just wanted to make sure that the coast is considered. I feel that what I've been looking at, I haven't been keeping up as good as I should have been, but one thing I'm concerned about is that we get some form of facility on the coast to handle 5150s. That's really all my comment.
Thank you, John. Any other more public comment, please? Lily, do I have any?
No, I don't see anything.
Okay, and I am sorry that it took me so long to log on. Are we on 3A now?
Yes, we are, Donna.
Okay, thank you very much. 3A is approval of minutes. Do I have any committee comment on the minutes, please?
This is Shannon.
Yes.
I will move approval of the minutes as submitted, but I would like to make a request, please. On the minutes, we have intermittently seen the names of the commissioners voting. I would like to request that moving forward, whenever there is an action item with a vote, the committee members are listed by name according to the ayes, the noes, the abstentions, and the absence.
Thank you, Shannon. So you are approving the minutes, and then you have an addendum that you would like for just consideration, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Almond with a second.
Thank you, Commissioner Allman. Do I have any public comment on the minutes, please? Okay, I would like to call for a vote, please, Lily.
Commissioner Barish,
Yes.
Commissioner Myrtle,
Yes.
Commissioner Diamond,
Yes.
Commissioner Allman,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Liberty, no, Commissioner Riley,
Yes.
Commissioner Weir,
Yes.
Commissioner Rich,
I am going to abstain from voting as I have not completed the oath since I was just brought on yesterday at the Board of Supervisors meeting.
and Chair Moschetti.
Hi. Okay, so now we move on to item 3B, the financial report. Commissioner Miller, please.
All right, so you guys got sent out, I think Allison sent it out in an email also today. Hopefully everybody got that. have it in front of you. We did try to put together some additional financial reports. This is from Behavioral Health. We are taking over some of the Measure B financial stuff. As Commissioner Weir noted last meeting, that this really wasn't supposed to be in his office, and there needed to be some other department taking it over and creating those reports. We are happy, these are draft. We are happy to create additional reports or reformat these reports if you guys would like to see them differently. We used a format similar to what we use for the Behavioral Health Advisory Board committee meeting in regards to really making it friendly for the public to be able to read it and understand it. It's one of the stakeholder feedbacks we've gotten. But we are happy to play around with these however they would work for this committee, but we wanted to at least start something, bring it here today, and work with you guys on what works. What's really important to note in these reports is these are not estimates. We are not providing you estimates in these reports. These reports are actual data that is either within the estimate of what was presented for the Measure B budget and what we have paid to date through our Munis system for services. So this isn't going to say we estimate this much. This is actual data to date from when the data was pulled on what we have expended, what the budget was approved for that area, and how much we have left or what we've gone over in those different areas.
Do I have community? Yes, Shannon, I see your hand up.
Thank you. I did not have a chance to read these reports. I didn't realize they were included in an email today. My question is, were these financial reports provided to the public as well?
No.
If they were not, then we should not be discussing them in detail, please. I think the committee and the public deserves time to review these.
They were delivered to the public, but they are on our website. So unless they have recently looked at our website, they do not have.
Further committee comment, please. And I'm sorry, most of us are not where I can see you, so I'm going to give a little lag time.
Yeah, this is Jed. I agree with Shannon. If the information was not available to the public, I don't think it should be discussed. And many of us just recently got it, and I don't think that everybody on the committee has had ample time to review it.
Further discussion from the committee, please.
And Donna, I will just add, this is Janine. I was not aware that this didn't go out because they were provided in time to go out. So I agree with Shannon and Jed. If they were not submitted, then we shouldn't be talking about them. But I was not, since they were submitted in time to go out with the packet, I assume that they did.
Okay, so they are now out there for everyone's review, and we will look at them next meeting. Do I have any community comment before we move on, please?
I see Sherry with her hand up.
So my name's Sherry Ebiam. So I have the agenda pulled up for today's meeting, and there's additional documents, neither of which are the documents that Dr. Miller is referring to. So I don't believe they're posted on the website from what I can see, available to the public. I don't see that.
They are definitely on there. I just went and looked, and they did arrive after the original packet went out. They were added as an addendum the night after the packet was posted initially.
Are they titled Fiscal Reports 11/11/21?
They should, yes, they should be on the opposite end of the agenda for today.
Okay, because that report, I couldn't tell what report Dr. Miller was referring to without any name for the report or screen sharing of the report. The fiscal reports titled 11/11/21, they've been on this website for probably about a week.
Thank you. Thank you for your observation. Appreciate it. Any other further community comment, please? Lily, do we have any?
No.
Thank you.
Donna, this is Shannon. I have another comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Just as a matter of process, if items are added to the agenda packet prior to the meeting, it would be appropriate to have some kind of public notification that this has happened through the same means that these items are published. If there's an email distribution list or whatever, but they can't just magically pop up on a website and us expect people to find them.
No, I perfectly agree. Thank you for the comment. Any other further comment, committee or public, please? Hearing none. Yeah, I'm sorry. Who?
It's okay, I had to unmute. Would it be proper to screen share the forms so that you guys don't get a month behind on that? Because the public that's here that's interested is here. I don't know if that's kind of fudging the Brown Act a bit.
Well,
I don't know.
To be honest, Joe, I have no clue. So good point, and I will research it before next meeting. Is that fair?
Yeah. I wouldn't want you to do something that wasn't right.
Anyone else have any comments, please? Yes. Mrs.
Yes, John Wetzler.
Oh, sorry, John, you're next.
Thank you. For Lloyd Weir, I just wanted to get the last available total that we've collected from the sales tax from Lloyd. It might be two months old, but I just wanted to find out where we stood.
Commissioner Weir, can you provide that, please?
Yes, so the report I sent out a month ago had the September sales tax amount at $799,942.
799,000.
Yeah, $942.
Okay, what I was asking for was the total sales tax revenue since we started, as we're approaching the 5-year limit on it.
Well, as of the last meeting, the published report says 21,507,270.
Good, that's the number I wanted. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you both. Any other further comment, please?
Can I just ask a question?
One question, that's it.
Yeah, so this is what I was referring to in the document that's fiscal report 11/11/21. Dr. Miller, is this the first page of the report that you are referencing?
No. Well, that is one of the, it looks like one of them. It's hard to really see. Yes, that's the first page, which has the proceeds, which has what we've, it details out each year and where we are to date, how much we've come in, and then how much total, and then broken down by 25% and 75%. And then it goes down to show what our expenses were to date and yes, that's the first page, Sherry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Anyone else before we move on to item 3C, please? Seeing none, we will move forward to item 3C, discussion and possible action regarding the existing facility located at 1 Madrone Street, Willits, California, for potential use as a PHF via the Kemper Ad Hoc Committee. Commissioner Miller, please.
Sure. So we wanted to bring back and just have a discussion. As you know, the Kemper Ad Hoc Committee has been tasked with looking at a lot of varieties, operations, facilities, finances, and we have been working over the last couple months. And one of the things we looked at is viable buildings within Mendocino County that might work as a psychiatric health facility or psychiatric hospital. And when we went through that report, we probably looked at several, 12, 13 different options. We really came back to the fact of wanting to just bring back to the committee the conversation of when we were said and done, the committee felt like Old Howard was still a very viable option. And it's something that we felt we should consider. We're not coming saying, let's buy Howard or let's build it today, but we are saying, as a committee, should we really be taking a stance to look at this and make sure that we as a committee have really said, yes, we agree with it, no, we don't, and what would that look like? So we've spent a lot of time looking at different facilities. We spent a lot of time hearing not in my backyard, and we hear that quite often. And for us in mental health, it just reminds us of the stigma and discrimination that exists out there in our community. And every community I've talked to, I hear the same thing. Yes, we need a PUF in Mendocino County, but not in my backyard. So it's going to get really hard for us to put a PUF in Mendocino County if every answer is not in my backyard. And if the community wants a PUF, we have to be realistic that it has to go somewhere. And we have to get over the stigma and discrimination of having a psychiatric health facility. We also, there's a lot of bad press and stigma and discrimination out there about what a PUF is and the clientele that go into it. And I think we have to move away from that stigma and discrimination and really understand what a psychiatric health facility is, the type of clients that it actually serves, what it does or does not bring in, because there's a lot of misconceptions that it's, going to bring in all this horrible stuff. It's like a prison or whatever. A psychiatric health facility is less traffic and less issues than having an emergency room right there. It doesn't require a lot of law enforcement because they take care of the issues within their own facilities. So there's this perception of what a psychiatric health facility is that's not realistic. So one of the things that our group talked about is how do we reduce that stigma and discrimination? But also when we're looking at facilities, we have a viable option, and we just wanted to bring it back and say, maybe we need to relook at this as a viable option as we've continued to look at options throughout the county and came back to this being one of the best options in our county.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller. Do I have committee comment, please? Yes, Ms. Riley, and then Dr. Barish, you're next.
I want to say first and foremost that I'm extremely disappointed and frustrated with the way this item was presented. We have asked for, and we had an expectation of when we provided staffing for this committee, that we would receive complete staff reports. So to have an item like this, undoubtedly one of the most controversial items that this committee has discussed, to show up unexpectedly on the agenda with zero supporting documentation is government at its worst. It demonstrated a lack of transparency, a lack of adequate information to the public and the committee, and a complete lack of collaboration with our local partners. I think this is a discussion that probably needs to happen. This is not the correct way to do this. We had an RFP out for the psychiatric health facility. Responses were due on November 30th, and we have received no information about the status of that. It's not an agenda item, and instead, we're being asked to go a completely different direction without an update as that. Director Miller just explained the work that the Kemper Ad Hoc Committee is doing. None of the things mentioned were actually the strategic plan, which they have been tasked with. In May, according to our minutes, they were working on it. In August, we revised the scope of that ad hoc committee to direct them to work on it and give them the authority to do it. We authorized the hiring of a financial consultant to assist with it. We have no update on that item on the agenda either. And yet we have this title with discussion and possible action and not a single bit of supporting documentation. And I think that's probably why we have so many members of the community here. So this is very disappointing.
Thank you, Commissioner Riley. Commissioner Barish, please.
So just to, we've dealt with this issue before in detail, and there were a lot of unanswered questions at that time. And I think that there are things we could do to answer some of those questions. Like, for example, there are a lot of psychiatric facilities throughout California. And one of the questions is, what happens when somebody is admitted to a locked psych facility and then discharged? Where do they go? And I think this would be something that we could canvass these facilities and find out. You know, if somebody, for example, is bused from a different county, if somebody's bused from a different county, is there an agreement to take them back to where they came from? And is this what generally happens? Because it seems to me, I know that the Building Bridges facility in Ukiah, most of the people who live there are local people. 80% is the percentage I heard. And if that's the case, it would suggest that and would make logical sense that people from other communities would want to go back to the communities that they know. But I think we really need to present documentation from other facilities. And that's just one example, but there are several issues that came up the last time that we should complete. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Barish. Do I have any other further committee comment, please?
Yeah, this is Alman.
Yes, Commissioner Alman, please.
You know, I agree with most of what's been said, not everything, but this is a very emotional topic for everybody, and there's both sides that are emotional. They're not in my backyards, as well as the people who realize this could be the fastest way for us to get a PUF in our county. And last year there was a lively discussion at our meeting where a suggestion was made: if we're going to do this, we need to have a meeting focused just on this topic, no other topic, just this, and focus it in Willits. And obviously with COVID, we're not going to be able to have a Willits community meeting, but we could have a Willits Zoom meeting. There's a lot of moving parts to this. I personally have my thoughts that this could work. However, until we get the pulse on the city council and the community of Willits and so forth, I don't think this needs to be an action item. This needs to be an item that we need to plan for and have a very robust discussion on, and then make a decision to either stop talking about it or to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Alman. And I completely, sorry, I'm going to interject here. I do agree with you. It was brought before Measure B because we do not want to keep Measure B out of the loop. So continuing, please.
This is Commissioner Rich.
Yes.
I just, from the mental health services side, and we did discuss this at the Behavioral Health Advisory Board meeting this morning. You know, I think there are a lot of misunderstandings about what it actually means to have a psychiatric health facility in your community, and the way that those discharges and arrivals happen and the impacts on the community. And, you know, there were varied opinions on our board about whether or not Willits was an appropriate location, but it does seem that in looking at the rising requirements on construction costs for new construction, it's certainly worth having a detailed study of both what it would look like in a community to have this facility. Any community, wherever we put one, we're going to need to know what the impacts are to those neighbors, so that we could actually respond with factual information, but also what it would actually cost to retrofit the Howard Hospital facility, because without any of that information, you know, a discussion one way or the other doesn't make sense. And I do think it makes sense to kind of close the door on that one way or the other. Either yes, it's still a viable option as you compare to other options, or no, it's a done deal. We're not doing that. I think the question has been out there long enough. It would make sense to find a way to close that.
Thank you, Commissioner Rich. Do I have anyone else on commissioner comment before I turn it over to the public, please?
Yeah,
I got one point.
Yeah, I do.
I'm sorry.
Well. I'm not
I'm
sure
sorry.
who's next, but Jed Diamond likes speaking.
Jed Diamond, yes, please.
Okay. I agree with pretty much everything that's been said so far in terms of how it's being brought forward. I've worked in mental health professionally for 50 years, and clearly there's a fear, stigma, and also a clear desire for mental health services. I mean, they're both sides are going on. And I think we have to acknowledge that, and we see it with just our structure today, we're still in a pandemic, a worldwide pandemic that's affecting everybody as well as our local communities. And that brings up a huge amount of fear that affects everything. So it's going to increase the fear of anything that gets decided because there's fear going around. And it also heightens the need for good, viable mental health services in our county. And we all know that Measure B came into being because a large number of voters said, we want this and we're willing to tax ourselves. And I think that's needs to be remembered, that the community voted strongly for mental health facilities, and many of them felt strongly that some kind of a psychiatric hospital was needed. So that being said, I think there's more, from my point of view, than just not in my backyard. There's certainly, there's always going to be some fear about any kind of facilities in our local areas. And I'm not sure who's here to speak from the community directly, but in the packet we all got, there were some, I think, viable concerns, not just not in my backyard, but Dr. Matheson, Mills Matheson, I think had some really important points about questioning the foundational ability of a community to deal with homelessness and the people that may leave the facility, who may be homeless, who may end up in Willits from other places. I know Debbie and Charlie Clark talked about some of the concerns locally. So it kind of gets back to, I think, for me, what Shannon said originally, which is that these are important issues, and Commissioner Ahman, I think, said the same thing, that we really need to look at these carefully. We need to look at them fully. And I think the feeling is we've been going over this for many, many months, in years, really, even before the Measure B was brought into being. And I think we really need to decide whether Howard Hospital is viable as both as a potential unit and place to have a facility or not. And if yes, let's get going with it. And if not, let's look at other options and other potential mental health facilities that can be used. So that's my a few cents to put in at this time. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Diamond. And again, that's why it was brought forward to this committee. So any other committee, please?
Yes, a couple of more comments
Dr.
regarding.
Barish, is that you?
Yes, Dr.
Thank you.
Barish.
Please go ahead.
First of all, I would like to say there was a comment about the seismic readiness of the facility and the fact that the new hospital was built to handle the seismic issues that would then fall on the psych facility, and that's not quite accurate because an acute hospital is held to a higher standard than a psych hospital and has to be OSHPD 5, which is the reason for building the new hospital. But OSHPD 4, another issue is that there are different parts of the old hospital. There's an old part that was built in 1929, and then the part where the acute care took place was built in 1975, and that's a huge difference. The part built, and also the surgery part and the emergency room were even later than 1975, as well as the intensive care unit. So, and that newer part is OSHPD 4, which is adequate for a psych facility. So that would not have to be retrofitted for earthquake issues. The other issue is well, as I was saying, the age of the facility, I think that the oldest part of the facility would not have to be used to just decrease the cost of upgrading it. And then one other issue is the question of the fence around the facility. There would be no need for a fence around the facility. This is a locked facility. The doors are locked. Hospitals in most big cities have locked facilities without fences around them. That's utterly unnecessary. So I just like to correct those misconceptions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Barish. Do I have anyone else on the commission?
Ross Liberty here.
Yes, Mr. Liberty, Commissioner Liberty, please forward.
So it's surprising to me and kind of shocking actually that we continue to talk about edifices, we talk about new buildings, yet don't have operators lined up. We don't know about the feasibility of running them. You know, we keep doing that, right? Well, let's go throw some money at this and get some feel good out of it, but we don't know if we can get an operator to run it. And I haven't heard that we've actually done a good job addressing that on any of them. So that would be my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ross. Any comments, again, please, from the commissioners right now?
Hi, this is Mark. Can you hear me?
Mark, yes, Commissioner Myrtle, please.
Hi. I guess it's up to one of us to place on the agenda report on the RFPs for both the CRT and the PUF units, because I think those are related to the construction projects that we're running. So I'll make that part of my agenda contribution next time. Anyway, yeah, and how that pertains to Willits is we need to have operators if we're going to be considering tens of millions of dollars for the purchase and remodel of a PUF facility, because if we don't have an operator, I don't think we should be spending millions of dollars on a building. That being said, about 2 years ago, I think I gave projections for the remodel of that building that's 2 years old now of around $17 million. $17 million for a remodel project is quite a bit. I don't know if we're going to have to pay for that building. I assume we'd have to pay something. And those numbers are outdated. Construction costs have increased since then. So those are all considerations to think about when talking about the old Willits Hospital.
Thank you, Commissioner Myrtle. Any other commissioners, please?
Do you want me to wait until public comment, or this is Allison, or may I say something now?
As long as we have no further committee comment, then you can be the first committee member. Public member. Go ahead, Allison.
Okay, thank you. Oh, actually all of the concerns have been addressed, and actually the information from ACE about the different phases of and ages of the building was great. My real only concern left over is that the building itself, I think, is about 70,000 square feet, and we would need to manage those utilities and also the site itself and the grounds, and also make sure that we had enough going on in that building to justify renovating such a space. That's it.
Thank you. And now we will ask for committee comment, or excuse me, public comment, and please remember 3 minutes apiece, and we appreciate your comments. So please, Lily, let them in.
Yes, this is John Wetzler. Hello?
Yes, John.
Oh, good. I wanted to find out who owns Howard Hospital now, and then I have another question.
Howard Foundation owns the hospital.
Howard Foundation. Okay, good, thank you. And then this might be for Tom Allman. Tom, John Wetzler here. Did you historically did the sheriff's deputies bring from the coast into the Ukiah inland area? Did they ever drop off 5150 folks at the Old Howard Hospital?
Well, drop off is not the correct phrase, but certainly if 5150 was taken from the coast and the emergency department on the coast was busy, then it would be normal for them to come to Howard Hospital. If not Howard Hospital, then they would continue down to UVMC. But a lot of it was dependent upon where mental health would agree to meet the deputy sheriff and the 5150 themselves.
So historically, they have been at times dropped off at Howard Hospital. I'm not talking about the NIMBY idea.
I'm going to once again say the word drop off is not the correct phrase, because you don't drop off someone who's 5150.
No, I know that.
Well, if you ask me a question, at least give me the courtesy to answer your question. So when we do transport a 5150, we'll stay with them until we're relieved from someone from mental health. And so there is no drop off whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you both. Mr. Wetzler, do you have any further comment?
No, that was it.
Thank you. Further community comment?
Yes, Mills Matheson.
Mr. Matheson, please.
Sure. I would like to see a list of all the sites that the ad hoc committee looked at for a possible PUF. That would help the discussion. And finally, have you had any input from any of the possible operators about the location of the PUF? Their thoughts would be very, very important in deciding where the PUF is located. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matheson. Further community comment?
Sherry?
Yes, please, Sherry.
So my comments center around when a site is being considered. I heard someone, I think it was Mr. Myrtle, threw out the number 17 million to remodel Howard. And that's just the remodel, you know, it doesn't include every other design or every other cost that might be associated with that. And I'm not sure how a site, it's like what comes first? It's the chicken and the egg question. Why consider a particular site if you don't know what the costs are and if you don't know what the available budget is for that site? How can a site be considered without knowing what the available budget is for that site? I mean, it might, you know, operators might look at the Old Howard and go, yes, this is a perfectly suitable site. But is the cost for putting the PUF there within the realm of the money that the committee wants to designate? Or is there a secondary site that also might be suitable that would be less money? But again, it just keeps coming back to the big picture, making decisions without having a big picture in mind. And the second piece is the impact on the community when people are discharged from the psych unit. Maybe the committee might consider a facility that when people are discharged from the PUF that they would then go to. Would it be a second Christ CRT or a CSU? I'm not sure what the protocol would be, but that could play into the budget picture, whether or not you wanted to have some follow-up for people to go to when they are discharged from the PUF. So again, it just keeps pointing to having a big picture, which I haven't yet seen from this committee. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Sorry, excuse me. Any other further community comment, please?
This is Bernard Kameroff for Willits.
Yes, please, Bernard.
I'm from Willits and been following the Measure B committee since the very beginning. And while we can talk about NIMBY and all, we have to just remember that the Willits City Council in March of 2018 passed a resolution that went at very length of why they felt that this facility did not belong at Howard Hospital. Just a couple paragraphs from that. They mentioned that pursuant to Chapter 9 of Title 22 of the California Code of Regulations, requires that the project be subject to Willits City codes and regulations in the city's land use authority. And they go on that, and one of many conclusions they say is that the facility would not conform with the city's zoning ordinance. And if you will look at that thing, which goes on for 4 pages, you'll find a list of problems that the city of Willits has. Almost none of them have to do with NIMBY. Also, Chris Wilkes, the fire chief here in Willits, did not know about this meeting until we found out and told him. He is at a fire training in Sacramento, but he sent a letter to Supervisor Haschek and copies to you all where he was saying that for discussion, he said, I find this very hard to believe or fathom for that matter, since I have not been contacted over our concerns and the overall impact to emergency services within the fire district. He says, I want to be very clear. The Kemper Ad Hoc Committee has zero information on your local first responding agency and the impact a facility like this would have. The fire chief said, my personal guess is they do not realize the fire department is a volunteer response that is already stressed to the maximum. So we have serious zoning issues. Also, I recall the fire chief mentioning water problems up there. And in response to Ace Barish, Dr. Barish saying that it certainly don't need a fence. That goes completely against the Howard Foundation's own contractor they hired, who was specialized in puffs, who came to your March 18 meeting and said very clearly, without a doubt, it must be a 12 to 15 foot tall fence. Sheriff Allman at the time questioned him about it, and he repeated that. Anyway, these are concerns that we didn't know nothing about until 2 days ago. And I'm really sorry that you didn't give us more time to get ready. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Do I have any other, community comments? I know Supervisor Haschek.
Yeah, thank you.
Supervisor Williams. Sorry, Supervisor Haschek.
Okay.
John, you can go next. Yeah, I had a question for commissioners about the process of soliciting community input. I think the community meetings need to happen. But I'm curious if Willits and the public at large and the city council decide it's not the right project for their community. And then we go to Ukiah and we repeat that pattern. And then we try Fort Bragg and we rule out all but one very small city. Where do we go next? At some point, do we have to decide voters pass this and there may not be an ideal location, but we need to work within our budget? Or if no community wants it in their backyard, do we call it? What does that process look like? I think it would be good to talk about it up front before the community meeting so that we don't get in a position of creating conflict where we ask for community input and then eventually we go against their wishes out of necessity.
Thank you, Supervisor Williams. Supervisor Haschek, please.
Thank you, Chair Muschetti. Yeah, this is certainly a controversial issue. And, for me, being the supervisor for the 3rd district, which includes Willits and the northeast part of the county, and I'm on the ad hoc committee with Supervisor Williams that the board appointed to help, liaison with the oversight committee. So we have been participating in some of these meetings, and, when we look at what happens with the PUF, where it's going to be located, all those issues, we really need to look at the process. And so, what I've done is, I say, okay, if we're going to have a PUF at the old Howard Hospital or even have to demolish the hospital and build a new, I would like city council input on it. And so I outreached to the Willits City Council. I talked to 4 out of the 5 members, and one member was adamantly against it. The other 3 had concerns, and they wanted, they were open to hear about how those concerns might be mitigated. And those concerns certainly were security, what kind of fence, or is there a fence needed? The lighting, those are neighbor concerns. What's the appearance going to look like? Is it going to be like this jail-like structure? What are the discharge plans going to be? Are people going to be let out into Willits and, add to the homeless situation? Or are they going to be given, transportation back to where they came from? What is the demand on the services on the city of Willits? Is there going to be additional police, or like we heard about Chief Wilkes' concerns, for the fire department too? Are those demands going to put a real strain on infrastructure? And so, what I've heard from Dr. Miller and the Kemper ad hoc is that these things can be negotiated, they can be dealt with. And so what I would like is to, if there's a desire for the committee to send it to the Willits City Council, that information be shared, that we find out exactly what we're dealing with. And with that information, then a decision is, we have a town hall, we hear from the people, and then with that, we make some kind of decision on whether we want to go forward or not. And so I think there's a lot of issues that need to be confronted before any kind of decisions made, certainly. So that's what I have to say about it. I just, I look forward, if the committee wants to go forward with looking at the old Howard, then I certainly think that we need to have a robust discussion with the city council and the town.
Thank you very much, Chair, or excuse me, you're not chair anymore. I'm sorry, Supervisor Haschak. Any further community comment, please? Yes, Joe.
Bradley.
Yes, Joe.
I have wanted that hospital to be used as our PUF. And what I find really disturbing is that somebody said the whole thing has to be fenced, and that there's such a stigma involved. And as we were talking at the BHAB meeting, and the hospitals that I have been involved with intimately, where I've gone and visited, there's no fencing. They're in residential areas. They're quiet. They don't have big signs on them and flashing lights. At night, there's no more lights on them than there are on the surrounding homes. They're all soundproofed. They're locked. When you go in to visit, you don't just walk in the door and have free access, nor does anybody on the inside have access to the outside. So I really think that it might behoove the Measure B committee to get an ad hoc, go and talk to some of these places to find out those things, take pictures. I know we have COVID right now, so I don't know how we can do that, if that's something we could do. But I think that would demystify some of it. I mean, the one hospital, we drove by it. We didn't know it was a hospital, and then we had to turn around and go back. And it did have a yard, so people could go outside. That was fenced with a normal fence that, like cinder block or something that, it didn't look like, barbed wire and all that. So I think that's what people think of, is the barbed wire and the fencing and 15 feet and, oh, please. It all goes to feeding the fear and the stigma. And I think if we demystify that, it will help, no matter whether we end up at Howard or we end up in Fort Bragg or Ukiah, wherever we end up. But I think demystifying it's really important. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. And I have to echo that. As chair, I didn't know what to expect when I went for the first meeting with my loved one. And it was in a residential area. They hold adolescent, they hold adult, and they hold criminally insane. I couldn't tell you it was that kind of unit. I really couldn't. And I was surprised because I was in it. So thank you very much for bringing that up. Any other further community comment, please?
Yes, Donna, we had yesterday a request from a community member. He wanted to make a comment on this item. His name is Keith Peterson. I'm not sure if he's on or not.
Keith, are you on?
I am. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Yes, we can, or I can.
Okay, great. I own a house adjacent to the hospital. And I wrote up a statement that I could read within 3 minutes. And it basically is a NIMBY statement, as you might assume from someone who would be impacted. My house, my property value, my psychological, just the idea that all these people who have difficulty in their lives are being brought to me next door and residing there for a few days, or I don't know how long, but then would be released and wander out and into the neighborhood. But I'm not going to read that. I'm going to just say that I've heard a lot of other comments, and I agree with Supervisor Haschik that the city council should be consulted, and it shouldn't be the county over the city. We're the big dogs, and we're going to do what we want no matter what you think. The other thing you need to consider is energy efficiency. You know, there's a global warming thing going on, and it is being brought forward as one of the most important issues we're facing. And transportation of these people back and forth is a big part of the energy demand. And if you try to retrofit that old hospital, I mean, that's an energy hog there, I can tell. Because I live next door and I hear those machines running to heat it, and they blast into my windows when they do, as well as the lighting and so on and so forth. But not to concentrate on the NIMBY, but to concentrate on efficiency of the money. You have a very limited budget, which is going to be a lot less than what you projected based on COVID. People aren't shopping locally; they're buying that stuff on Amazon. And I don't think your budget is going to be what you thought it was before COVID. So, you got to think green on this. And I think if you locate it very near where your other facilities are, so that there's not so much transportation between one and another, you need to analyze where do most of the people come from who would be coming to this facility, and how long would they stay, and how would they get back home? I don't know how much time I have, but I'm probably about, and you got to determine the cost of what portion of this 70,000 square foot structure you're going to use, how many staff people you're going to have, where they're going to park, because people tend to want to park in the shade of my trees, and I can't park next to my house because they're parked there all day long. There's a lot of concerns with this site. You're going to have to remove some of the buildings in order to have, room for on-site parking. I think there's costs involved here, especially operating costs, that you don't seem to know anything about the cost yet, other than the projected 17 million. It's 2 years old. So I don't know. I'm a little frustrated, but those are my comments. I won't keep you any longer.
I thank you, Mr. Peterson, and I also thank you for bringing up a point that I also felt the way that you did, is that when you shop on Amazon, you don't get the sales tax dollars. However, we do get the sales tax dollars. So that's the one thing I want to make sure everyone knows. If you shop on Amazon, they nail us. If you're in the county, they nail you for the 8.875%. which I, along with Mr. Peterson, didn't think happened, but I did research it and it does. But thank you for your comments.
Well, I appreciate that clarification.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else on the community?
I don't see anyone else, Donna.
Okay, thank you. So this was brought up for discussion, possible action. So we have had a discussion. It is up to the committee as to whether we want to have a vote. Otherwise, you can ask that we bring back more. It's up to the committee as to what we want to do. It was brought forward so that we would get community input. We would get committee input. It's just to look at viable facilities. There doesn't have to be a vote. The Board of Supervisors can still look at whatever they wish to, but it is up to us. So I would like a committee consensus on what we would like to do, please.
Donna, this is Alman.
Yes, please, committee.
I'm going to suggest actually that we don't take a vote, but we ask our two supervisors who are listening. This is bigger than anything of Measure B. This is bigger than the Board of Supervisors. And I would ask that our two members of the Board of Supervisors, since they're on their ad hoc, that they request with the City of Willits an ad hoc to their city council, and the four people discuss this. This is something that we can talk about it all day long, but the decision makers, the legislative body of the county and city, are the final sayers of this. And so I would just ask Supervisor Haschak and Supervisor Williams to take the ball and run with it now. They certainly heard everything, and we don't need to discuss it anymore until we hear the direction from the Board of Supervisors. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Allman. I completely agree with you. Do we have any other committee comment, please?
This is Shannon, Donna.
Yes, Commissioner Riley.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Allman. We should not take any action on this item. I'm kind of stunned that we're spinning about this topic again. This is what happens when an item is improperly noticed. We had no information about it. So here we are debating the merits of a PUF and the location of it when we still have not received an update on the status of the RFP that closed November 30th regarding the operations of a PUF. And we were led to believe that Adventist Health was one of the interested parties, meaning maybe we do not need to find another location. So no, we should not take any action on this item today. This is not the appropriate forum to be debating this, and we did not have enough information to make any kind of an informed decision, let alone know what we were supposed to be deciding about.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Riley. Anybody else further? Thank you. Please.
This is Commissioner Rich. I would echo that, I'm not sure what action we would take at this point. We didn't get enough information to take any concrete action. I did want to say that it would be helpful to have, for wherever this ends up going with whatever operator we choose, I do think there needs to be a clear process for how we're going to engage the community and what that would look like, so that we make sure we're addressing all the stakeholders and that we do actually have a really clear presentation of what it means to have a PUF in your community. And, sort of being the new guy on the block, I'm not sure where that who would be responsible for making such a document or preparing such a strategy, but I think it should be included because it's a really important piece of wherever that facility lands.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I believe that as a committee, we've and I could be totally wrong and you can fire me. I agree with Commissioner Allman that it's been brought forth to the Measure B committee, and if the supervisors want to run with it, run with it. And that means getting town halls, etc. Am I correct, Commissioner Allman, when I say that?
Yes, absolutely. The legislative body.
The legislative body takes over, right?
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So there we go. We will move on to item 3D. Administrative Project Manager's Report, including information regarding the Board of Supervisors meeting on the 26th. Allison, please.
Hello, everybody. All right, well, we actually had probably the most productive meeting with the Board of Supervisors yesterday that I've ever had. They were extremely helpful. They gave updates and information on what they wanted the report to look like, their monthly reports, as well as what it should include, and it gave me a lot of insight into what they need in order to make decisions about Measure B. So that was a good experience. Nothing. There was a motion essentially relating to what I was just speaking about. And once I have a format ready, I will share it with you. And I would very much like to hear your input on what you think would be helpful as well. I don't necessarily think it has to be a one-person viewpoint. Let's see. So as far as our current projects, we have 5. Even though 2020 was very difficult, we did quite a bit. And let's see. So project number 1, or actually it's project number 003, is the CRT, which is the Crisis Residential Treatment Center. And I don't know if you've noticed, but if you drive down Orchard Avenue, you'll now see the site for the facility is all gated off and ready for construction to take place. We have our plans at about 90%, soon to be 100%, and gone through the planning department fairly quickly. And that includes the CHAFA grant information, which is the state entity that has the $500,000 that is part of that project, so that their timeline and needs are in the critical path for construction as well. And we've integrated some of the licensing needs and things that cannot be part of that property, that could not be licensed if we were to build it a certain way. So it should be quite sound as is, and we will begin construction within the next couple of weeks. Do you want me to just keep going, or do you want me to stop and for questions in between?
No, yeah, please continue with the report, and then we will ask for comments on the whole report.
Okay. All right. So very exciting stuff. The Behavioral Health Regional Training Center has identified a contractor to do the remodel and site work. Site work is really everything that's outside of the building. And in this instance, there's a huge parking lot, needs to be resurfaced. Some of it needs to be demolished and then reshaped for ADA reasons. We have somebody there to do a septic repair. It really is it's an all-encompassing bid. The base bid, which is how Mendocino County decides on a contractor, is $168,267. So that was just site work, internal remodel, and also the ADA and parking lot. There are 2 alternates.
I'm sorry, Allison. I didn't mean that you could go on to the next measure. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. I'll stop.
I'm sorry. That was my fault. Okay.
They're connected, but I kind of started to go into
that.
the next
It was my mistake.
I apologize. Okay. Well, then I'll discuss the other aspect that's brand new. So the amazing training equipment that Member Allman had been telling us was coming has arrived. the people who brought it in came all the way from Georgia to set it up, make sure that that all of the different parts of it worked. And also, I spent about 2 days with them learning about this system. And the thing that is just, I mean, there's a lot of wonderful things about it, but the thing that is especially wonderful about it is that it can be like a two-player. So it is a system in which somebody from behavioral health or mental health position and somebody from law enforcement or first responder like an EMT can work together on the same scenario. And it's and of course independently as need be, but it is a way to bridge.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Hello?
We lost Allison.
We lost some people. Hold on, everybody. Hold on until we get everybody back. Are we all back?
Back.
Tom, can you hear me?
Almond could hear you. Yeah.
Okay, Ace? Mark, Ross, Dr. Miller?
I can hear you.
Ross is here.
Okay, so we're all back. Okay.
I think we just lost Allison.
We just lost Allison, the person who given the report.
Great.
Allison,
what was the last thing you guys heard?
Are you back?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
We lost you at laser tag.
It wasn't laser tag. Oh. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, at any rate, not laser tag, but a training device that can train both somebody who is in mental health and law enforcement, or an EMT and someone from behavioral health in the same scenario, so that there is a way to really develop that understanding.
Thank you. Anything else on item 3D, Allison?
I don't think so. Pretty much everything else was covered.
Okay. Any committee comment, please? Yes, Ms. Riley.
Thank you. I would just like to provide some additional clarification. It was reported that the plans for the Crisis Residential Treatment Center are at 90%, almost 100% completion, and working their way through the planning department. It was also reported to the Board of Supervisors yesterday that the project is working through the City of Ukiah's processes and through all of our requests. So I just want to provide some clarity. The planning department that is referenced is the county planning department. Even though this project is in the City of Ukiah, it is apparently not required to go through the city's planning and building department. We did request that the project go through the use permit process, mostly so that there would be public notifications and the types of public hearings that are usually associated with a project like this. And the county declined to do that, citing urgency for the project. We did have a good meeting with the architects and the team at the very conceptual stage in the beginnings of the project. They talked conceptually about what the project would look like. But to be clear, no building permit has been submitted to the city for this, and therefore we really don't have any way of knowing if it does or if it will comply with our stormwater, landscaping, street frontage, design requirements, things like that. So I'm not here complaining about the project at all, or complaining about the merits of it. It's a much needed project. But I think to say that it is in compliance with all of the city's processes and requirements is not accurate. So just for clarity.
Thank you, Commissioner Riley, and I apologize. I did not ask for Dr. Miller's update on the BOS. So Commissioner Miller, please.
Sure. So part of generally Allison's report out is I give a report out. I know Commissioner Myrtle was asking what happens with the RFP and where does that come. I usually add that on to Allison's report out of where we're at with the different programs. So I will give that update. The RFP for the crisis residential treatment, we did send an award letter. We are in the process of negotiating terms with the potential contractor. Once we are able to get an agreement in place, if that is going to require additional Measure B dollars, we will be bringing that contract back to Measure B so that you guys have a say in, are we wanting to spend these dollars or not? But right now we're still negotiating the rate and need to see how that will impact either Measure B dollars or what rate the contractor is willing to negotiate, as we also look at what Medi-Cal allows for a negotiated rate. So that's where we are regarding the CRT. We're in the contract negotiation. It's preliminary in the sense that the contract will still come forward to the the Measure B and then the Board of Supervisors, depending on what type of dollars we're looking at. If there is no additional Measure B dollars, it would go straight to the Board of Supervisors. If there are Measure B dollars that need to augment those services, it will come back to Measure B and then go to our Board of Supervisors. In regarding to the RFP for the psychiatric health facility, we have a team that is looking at that. We brought on a couple consultants that have experience in the field, and so that team is starting the process of reviewing those, and we'll have more information on that hopefully very soon. The mobile outreach and prevention unit, we have been working with the Sheriff's Department and Ukiah Police Department. We are recruitment out for 3 individuals to be hired into behavioral health. The agreement currently is that 2 will work with the Sheriff's Department, 1 will work with Ukiah Police Department. We have been meeting as a team with both the Sheriff's and Ukiah Police Department. We are developing a training program. We have been working with the Butte model, and both law enforcement agencies are asking and will be part of the interview process, and we're hoping that will take place soon. In regarding to the community education, awareness and support services, we are in the process of negotiating with a contractor. We are asking that a plan of what they would do and how they would spend those dollars is submitted prior to us agreeing to contract those services out. So it's very clear what we are agreeing to based on what Measure B and the Board of Supervisors has approved for those dollars and how they will be spent. In regard to the aftercare services, we are also in the process of negotiating with a contractor on that. We are once again asking for a plan. We are asking for detailed plans on their plans on what services they will be providing, how they're billing, and before we move forward, and how those dollars will be spent based on what we all agreed to. So we have potential contractors, we have contracts that are being started, but we really want to make sure that the dollars are being spent as we voted on in Measure B. And so we're asking for at least a form of a business plan from those entities.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Do we have any further commissioner comment, please? I don't see any. Lily, do we have any public comment?
No, I don't see anyone.
Oh, wait.
Sorry, I do have one question.
Wait. Sorry, Shannon. I'm on community. So Sherry, do you have something to say? Otherwise, I will go to.
Hi, this is Mark. I couldn't find the unmute button. I actually have a comment.
Go ahead, Mark.
The additional dollars, is that like $1 that's going to have to come from Measure B, or is it like the $500,000 that was discussed a couple of years ago for the support of a CRT? Can you give me a little clarification on that, Janine?
Sure. So, I can't say at this time. We are trying to negotiate a rate. We would like a rate that doesn't impact Measure B. So it will depend on that negotiated rate, Mark, whether it's $1 or $500,000. I mean, honestly, I think we all have to be aware there is going to be part of the CRT is the upkeep of the maintenance of the building, and that's something we don't talk a lot about. So there will be some Measure B dollars that will go to upkeep and the maintenance of that building overall, and that's just going to be an annual cost that we haven't done a lot of we haven't spoken a lot about, but it's a reality we need to. But on top of that is that additional piece of, is there going to be additional dollars that need to augment those services to run that facility? And that does really depend on how the rate we negotiate and how that falls into the Medi-Cal billable services. And that's what we're working on now, with the hope that if we do come back, we're coming back and not, hopefully with the least amount of requests as we can, which is why we're negotiating the rate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. In just a second, Commissioner Riley, is there anyone else that I cannot see on the?
Yeah, Jed would like to get in after Commissioner Riley.
Okay, Commissioner
And Ross
Riley,
after you,
and then Jed, and then Ross. Commissioner Riley, please.
I just was wondering if there's any update on the status of the strategic plan.
The last I heard, I was told that it was being put on hold by the Board of Supervisors. I did not hear that directly from a supervisor, so, but that is all I have.
Commissioner Diamond.
Yeah, I just wanted a clarification, Shannon. I didn't hear how many potential operators are submitting RFPs for the PUF unit.
So, we're not allowed, we don't give any of that information out until we get to the part of presenting a contract. It impacts your negotiation. So I will provide more information when I can on when I'm able to, that it doesn't impact our ability to negotiate.
So you can't say how many or if we've gotten.
I will tell you we got at least one, but that, that's what I can say without disclosing too much information.
Okay, thank you.
And then I believe, Ross, did you have something you wanted to say?
Actually, I was going to ask the same question that Jed did, but I was going to ask it about the CRT, to which we've already committed in building and building. So right now, this committee, not knowing how many operators are available for the CRT and no contract let, we budgeted, what was it, $5 million for 8 beds. That's the reality where we're at. We said, let's spend $8 million or $5 million on 8 beds, and we don't have a deal with an operator yet. Just making sure we all understand where we're at.
Yes, Ross, and I'm going to step out on a limb, and we do have RFPs, RFQs for operators, and I want to make sure that Measure B understands that we do not have any say over operators. We have 0 say. So we keep bringing back, do we have any, do we want any? Yes, we should be allowed to know whether we have operators or whether we don't, and whether there's interest. But we have absolutely no say on who operates that building and who will do things. So I just want to make that clarification, and thank you, Ross, for allowing me to do that.
Well, thanks for that clarification, but we don't have any actual say on anything. Truth be known.
Yes,
but we make recommendations, and we should make intelligent recommendations based on knowledge.
Correct, and I agree with that. And we do have RFPs. I have to get them right. We do have RFPs for the CRT. We do have RFQs for the PHF. Got to get all my whatever they are correct. Any further community comment, or excuse me, commission? Any community comment?
Yes, Sherry.
Sherry, yes, please.
Allison mentioned very briefly that there was a motion made by the Board of Supervisors yesterday, and without going into any detail about what the motion requested. And so I'd like to say the motion, as I understand it, was about wanting the Board of Supervisors wanting information from Lewis, the architects, because almost $350,000 has been paid to them so far, and there's no understanding of what services were actually provided for that money. And so the Board of Supervisors has requested that that be part of a forthcoming report, giving that kind of detail. All, you know, it's other than just saying it went for toward the CRT. In Nocton Lewis's contract, there are pre-designed services, and the scope of services includes touring facilities with the county staff to determine what the county desires, site evaluations. So I'm wondering, there's been all this discussion about sites, and I'm wondering whether Nocton Lewis, are we paying them to for this that's in the contract? So, and the last thing is, it's all about Nocton Lewis and the request for all the detail. Their contract also includes the crisis stabilization unit in there. And I mean, pre-designed services for all 3 facilities in the contract, the amount is $453,000. How is that broken down for the CRT, the training center, the
Thank you, Sherry. I'm sorry, I have to cut you off right here.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
Dr. Miller is willing to respond to you, so we're gonna.
Thanks.
All right, so I'm going to thank you, Sherry, for bringing that up. And I have the motion. Hopefully I have it pretty close to what the motion they made yesterday. So I'm happy to read that so that the Measure B Commission knows what motion was made at the board yesterday.
Right.
I did want to bring one thing up. There was a comment. I know we didn't get to do the fiscal reports because they didn't go with the packet, but one of the things in there was misinformation, a miscoding that Nocton Lewis had done work on the psychiatric health facility. That is actually not correct. I did go back and research all their invoices and talk to them, and it was just miscoded. So that $80,000 that we saw for psychiatric health facility was actually CRT work, and that has been redirected to the correct program. I did personally speak to Nocton Lewis and asked them if they've done any work outside of the CRT, and I was told no. That all invoices they've sent us have been for CRT work solely, no work on any other of the projects within that agreement that we have with them, the CSU or the psychiatric health facility. The motion that was made yesterday is direction to Measure B project manager to bring back a detailed explanation of what Nocton Lewis have done with the Measure B contract, what funds have been spent, and address where in the contract process we are. Include business plans for training center and crisis residential treatment on the project website, and bring back an update on progress at the February 23rd, 2021 meeting. And board expects architect to present timely status updates to the board and the public. And I am assuming if I missed anything, one of our supervisors will let me know.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller. Thank you, Sherry, for the community comment. Do we have anything else before we move on to our last? Yeah. Hearing none. We will move on to item 3E, discussion and possible action regarding the financial status of the BHRT, which I hate that, Behavioral Health Training Center, Regional Training Center, and Allison did have it correctly. Project. So Allison, please.
Thank you. Let's see. So again, back to the contractor and the scope of work. The base bid, as I had said, was $168,267, and that would cover everything as far as site work, internal work, the septic system, and anything that really would need to be done in order to create a building that we could use without problems. There are a couple of different alternates as well that were requested or noted. First of which, alternate A, is the fire protection system. It says early, and this is from facilities. Early estimates for this project prepared by facilities included an allowance for an automatic fire sprinkler system before it was determined that the project did not meet the threshold to require one. Subsequent direction from Measure B requested the project include fire sprinklers as a voluntary precaution. And this location is Redwood Valley, which, as we all remember, had a very difficult time of it with wildfire in 2017 and again in 2018. The other alternates B and C, are regarding LED lighting, and I believe that Member Myrtle was the person who suggested and put these together. So Member Myrtle, if you want to jump in on this at any point, do. So this would, these are very similar. One is a full retrofit, and the other one is a replacement and retrofit. And the benefit that I have done some research on as far as having just an LED system is the cost. It's 60 to 80% less expensive to have an LED system annually. The alternate B, which is just the retrofit, is 14,730, and alternate C, which is the retrofit as well as a replacement, is 19,154. The fire sprinklers, fire sprinklers are bid in at 108,428. So this leaves us currently, after the base bid, with $43,706 left in our initial budget. Pardon me. Pardon me. So there are $43,706 left out of the original allocation that we were given for this project. If we were to take on the fire suppression system, that would mean that we would need to ask the Board of Supervisors for another $64,722. If there were a request for one of the LED systems, that would be anywhere from 79 to 83. So the question is, do we want to include these additional alternatives, and if so, which?
Thank you, Allison.
I
would like committee comment, please.
Alman has a question.
Yes, Commissioner Allman, please.
So the sprinkler thing has always been this elephant in the room ever since our very first meeting. And no one has ever said it's necessary. It started with one person from the planning and building department saying that it might be necessary. And now we've extended the cost of getting contractors to tell us how much it's going to cost, and we've spent a lot of money. But the question is, and it's not a question, it's a statement, there is not one legal reason that we have to have a sprinkler system. So I'm just curious why we continue to have this discussion. And it's not to you, Allison, it's to other people who have said, well, we might need a sprinkler system, we might not. Well, we've learned that we don't need it. And so at this point, if we don't need it, we don't need it by law, and it's a big room, and people, there's many exit doors. There's 3 exit doors in the building. in building that size that's right. So I don't see a need to continue this conversation, and especially request the board of supervisors to use more Measure B money towards a system that isn't even legally necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Allman. And again,
Some comments too.
I totally concur with you. However, it's a public building, so we have to bring these things up, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I have some comments on that.
Who am I? I'm sorry, Ross.
This is Ross. So I agree with Tom, and I think, you know, there was a discussion about the wildfires being an issue. Well, they burn from the outsides. Fire sprinklers usually protect the inside. Moreover, once the building's gone, if you have a fire sprinkler system, then you basically burn the building down, then you turn the sprinklers on because everything melts, and you end up with draining the much needed water to fight the fires. It's not a good idea from that perspective, but I agree with Tom. Like, it is really not much of a safety thing. I agree with Tom. We don't need to spend the money. I mean, if it was a personal check we had to write for this, would any of us spend that money? I don't think so. So I agree with Tom completely. On the, I want to get into the LED lighting. So the LED lighting showed basically the cost of the bid, but didn't get into the right formula, do the heavy lifting to come up with the right formula to determine the efficacy and the cost effectiveness of a fluorescent lighting project. So my entire building, 140,000 square feet, it is all LED lighting on the inside. And we did the heavy lifting to, before writing a personal check for hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it, of understanding the cost per kilowatt hour for power, understanding the delta, how many lumens we use, and the amount of hours that we operate. So we operate about 20 hours a day, 5 days a week. So, you know, if it starts to pay when you operate a lot like that, and you running a lot of lumens.
Ross, bottom line, give us numbers because you're out of time. Bring us numbers.
Okay, I'm telling you, you don't have the numbers, and that's what I'm telling you.
And since when do committee members have time limits?
No, we don't. But I was trying to get him to get to his point, because we do have to end very shortly. So if he has the numbers that say LED is 45% more effective, then just say it. That's my point. Sorry.
Okay, if you would have listened, you would have got that the fact of the matter is we don't have the numbers to make the decision. We don't have that. We don't know what that efficacy, the efficiency of that lighting is. We don't have that information. We don't have the things that we need to make the decision. We don't have an estimate on how many hours we're going to operate that facility. It's not going to be 20 hours a day, 5 days a week like my facility. You don't have the information in front of us to make an informed decision. Not that that's ever stopped us before, but we don't have the information.
All right, this Mark, I'm the one that made that recommendation.
Thank you. Member Liberty, please, Mark, go ahead.
I'm the one that made that recommendation. We had the delta between LED retrofits and providing new fixtures and retrofitting new fixtures in the main portion of the building and retrofitting the rest of the fixtures. So I think there's a difference of $5,000. I think that would be money well spent because there's a lot more maintenance as well as energy costs that go along with fluorescent fixtures. The quality of light for LED is a lot better, and they last probably 4 to 5 times longer. So for $5,000, I think it's a good investment, and I don't know that the money savings needs to be the primary reason for deciding to go LED. We're going to get a one-time expense for making these fixtures last as long as we can. And I think $5,000 is a good investment for that. As far as the sprinklers are concerned, I believe the county wants the sprinklers probably for insurance purposes. If we're going to be covering those, then I believe that it would be our
Yes, it would be
I
our
did.
responsibility, yes.
Right. Then I think I agree with both Allman and with Ross that fire sprinklers would not be a good investment for us for that project.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else on the actual committee, please?
This is Michelle.
Yes, please.
I would just echo both those general sentiment that I don't think the sprinklers are an appropriate use of funds for this building. And second, that I do think there could potentially be benefit from the LED lighting, but agree with Ross that we don't have the information to know if it's actually going to be cost effective. But my suspicion is that it likely would be.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else on the committee, please? Hearing none, community comment, please.
Sherry?
Yeah, I heard the question about not having the numbers to make a decision, but Allison reported to us that it would be 60 to 70% cheaper for an LED system. And on the spreadsheet that was provided by Allison, it shows the monthly cost for utilities is $1,200. So I did, I took half of that. I don't know how much is related to electric or gas or whatever. I took half of the $1,200, $600 for 4 years, 48 months is $28,800. Let's say you save 65%, somewhere between 60 and 70. The savings over 4 years would be $18,720. That's an easy trade-off between the investment to spend the $19,000 when you recoup the savings probably within 5 years. That seems like a no-brainer. My only other comment is whether or not again, there's no overall budget. So the personnel required to maintain this, I see it's on the spreadsheet. It's not talked about. Everything that it has a money item associated with it needs to be included in the discussion of spending money. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
I have another
I concur. However, we are right now on Measure B is split. So right now we're on building.
So I have another comment on it.
Ross, and go ahead.
Just to be clear, nobody's even given an estimate as to how many hours a week, a month, a year those lights will be on. Without that data, you cannot determine if this is worthwhile. You can't do it. If they're on for an hour a day, it might work. If they're on for an hour a week, it doesn't work. Whatever that number is.
So thank you very much, Ross. Any further community comment? No. Any further committee comment? So this is an approval item. And to my understanding, and everyone can correct me if I am wrong, if we do not take action on this, everything goes on as done. Or we can say no, or we can say yes.
Donna?
Yes.
If it isn't voted on at all, none of the ad alternates will go through. It will just be the base bid.
Right. So we can sit there and say, we're not going to do any of this. You're right. So are we not going to do any of this? Are we going to do part of it? Are we going to do none of it? Are we going to table it? And that's up to the committee.
I would like to hear the
I have to say that everything that we've already approved will go through. So this is just on the fire suppression and the LED lighting. Sorry, I wanted to make that clear. I'm sorry, Mark, please.
So I would like to have the alternates read again so we're clear on them.
Perfect. Please, Allison.
Absolutely. Okay, alternate A. It's a fire protection system. And this is automatic fire sprinklers that activate when there is fire within the building, not necessarily without, though they do activate if there's smoke. So if there's a large fire outside, they would activate as well. Because of the building, and the reason why this particular sprinkler system would be so expensive is because it would need some new piping, new plumbing, and then also a hydrant installed, and that is that is the only way that it would really be effective. Alternates B and C are for the LED lighting. B is for lighting retrofit, and this would take the existing fluorescent and incandescent lighting to meet Title 24 energy requirements. So, and of course, only one of the two of these would be needed. You wouldn't need to have both just the replacement and the retrofit. Let's see, the alternate B provides for replacement fixtures in some locations, not all, and that's in the main halls. Those will be retrofitted to accept LED tubes, and whereas the alternate C replaces all existing with LED fixtures, including the main hall. So alternate B, which is the smaller of the two, the retrofit is $14,730, and alternate C, which is the replacement and all of the lighting, is $19,154. And again, the fire suppression system is $108,428.
Thank you, Allison. And to my knowledge, we do not have Christian present, and I want to make sure I do everything legal. But I am going to revert back to private. And if we do not have a motion on the floor to do anything today, things will carry on as normal. If we want any of this, or if we do not want any of this, we have to put a motion on the table. That is my understanding. Christian is not here, but that is my understanding of how that is to go. Oh,
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I missed the question that you had.
We have a item on the floor that really going to be straight, just exactly what I said. If we don't move on it, everything just goes on along as normal. If we move on it, then it becomes something that goes before the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah, so, and just to clarify, the board would not be prohibited from taking up the item on their own, just that they've normally acted after recommendation by this body.
Right, it's whether we want to make a recommendation or not, because they have ultimate superiority, so.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, Ross.
All right, so I'll give this a shot. So the first part of the motion would be to not do alternate A, the fire protection system. Second part of the motion would be don't do B or C LED lighting retrofit at this point. Let's get some sense. Either somebody put up some data that's going to tell us we're going to use this X number of hours per day or
so
per year.
Ross, can I interrupt you? So you want to make
that ship already sailed.
You want to make a motion to not do this, period.
Not do it now. Reserve until.
So just make that motion.
Okay. We make I make the motion that we don't do anything. We don't do the
do any action now.
No action now.
Okay.
You know, I think if it's my motion, I should word it as I see fit.
Yes, you can, but it has to fall under certain jurisdictions. It's government, Ross. Do whatever you want.
I don't think you need to make a motion because if we don't do anything, it's all going to be base bid only. So if there's no motion, there's nothing that needs to happen.
You're exactly right. Also, Mark, I am trying to appease everyone, and I shouldn't do that. So let's do it this way. If we do not have a specific, thank you, Mark. If we do not have a specific recommendation or a specific motion on this, this was only discussion, period, we let it go.
Donna, can I just add one thing? I just want to make sure that people are aware. My understanding from talking, and Allison, I think you heard this too, so correct me if I have it wrong. If whatever we do now sets the whole contract, so what I was told was it would be hard to go back if we want to bring an alternate forward later. That's not the way it usually works, and I'm not sure what the way facilities explained it, that's something, I'm assuming we can, but it's not generally. Usually once we do the contract, we're pretty set. So that's just the way it was explained to me and Allison, I think that's what we got told, correct?
Yes, that is absolutely true. If we do not vote for A, B, or C will not happen.
So
ever, unless we decide to do it later with a different contractor.
And we'd have to go back out, right, Allison? That's what we got. We'd have to go back out. Okay, so I just want to make sure everyone's clear that we don't have any misinformation.
So let me, as chair, get a clarification. Do we have to make this clarification today? Because I would like to do it today if we need to, but if we don't have to make the clarification because there's obviously some opposition, tell me what I need to do.
We do. The contract depends on it. And if we don't get the contractor signed through the next Board of Supervisors series of meetings, the delay it'll hurt the project.
So it's a month delay after we talk to the board. After we approve it, it's a month delay to the Board of Supervisors. Okay, so gang, that tells us what we need to do. So what do we want to do? Let's take 2 minutes and decide what we want to do.
I don't know if I can make a motion. This is Michelle. Because I haven't been officially oathed or whatever, but my, I guess, suggestion for wording on a motion, if someone wanted to support that, would be that we decline alternate A and do alternate C. I think even though we don't have the data, it's probably a good move and has all the environmental bonuses in addition to the cost savings. So I would recommend it.
Okay, and then we would need to add if we would need to add if we did all see the cost, which is a request for $19,154.
Yes, and I don't know if I can officially make the motion. But,
no, you can't. But
okay, I would suggest it then.
Commissioner Allman, I saw you light up.
Yeah, well, to be quite honest, Chair, Ross was making a motion and he got down to the third one and he was cut off by you, and he was going on the right motion. So with all due respect, I'd like for Ross to finish what he was saying before he was interrupted.
Well, you could be exactly right. I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same.
I understand. So we're past the meeting. Let's just ask Ross if he's willing to make that motion.
Yeah, I would say I think we should just wait on the alternate C until we see exactly how much we're going to use the facility, and then we can decide if it pays, or at least wait until we have all the numbers. So don't do anything right now.
Okay, that's.
I just said maybe that takes no motion, but I disagree.
That's fine, but we still need to do the fire suppression. See, there's three components to this.
I thought I covered that already. I thought I covered that already.
Has to hold all three components.
I covered that already.
So
can Alden start with this? Can I make a motion that the motion is, let's start with this one at a time. that we do not approve the sprinkler system. That's my motion right now.
Okay.
I second.
Okay.
This is beautiful because this is the way it really has to happen. Perfect. Any community committee comment? None? Thanks. All those in favor, roll call really quick.
Commissioner Allman,
Aye.
Commissioner Barish,
Yes.
Commissioner Diamond,
Yes.
Commissioner Myrtle,
Commissioner Myrtle, yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Liberty,
Aye.
Commissioner Riley,
Yes.
Commissioner Weir,
Yes.
and Chair Moscotti.
Yes.
All
Great.
right.
Thank you. We're gonna get this down to thing. Now we're on the lighting and that's it. We're done.
Okay, Alman makes a motion that on option 2, we do nothing.
I'll second it.
Option 2 is tabled or we're not in control. Tabled?
I'm sorry, but we can't table it. It either has to be yes or no.
So, Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes, please.
I would suggest that we just clarify between what would be no action and possibly no recommendation by the commission versus a recommendation for or against a particular option. So, I understood Commissioner Allman's last motion to be a recommendation against the sprinklers, or against approving the contract with the option for the sprinklers. If the commission wanted to take no action, then the board would essentially have to decide, in the absence of a recommendation from the commission, whether or not to take up the particular alternative. There's been some talk about no action, meaning it doesn't happen. I just want to clarify, since this is a recommendation to the decision-making body, they're going to have to figure out whether or not, or whether they're receiving no information in terms of a recommendation, or whether they're receiving a recommendation against approving a particular option.
Gotcha. Commissioner Allman, I'm sure you understand all that.
Well, I do. And so as far as the lighting goes, I'm making a motion that we do not make a recommendation to approve the lighting as submitted.
Got it. Do I have a second on that?
And I seconded it.
Thank you, Ross. All those in favor? I'm gonna assume if there are no big nays that we got everybody.
I say no. I vote no.
Also, I specifically requested at the beginning of the meeting that we have the names of each of the people voting, please.
I'm going to leave that to county staff, which is unfair, completely unfair, and I'm going to put it down in writing. Unfair. But yes, Shannon, I agree.
What?
No, it's unfair because I'm not doing it. I'm in charge of this and I'm not taking those notes.
Okay.
Okay, so that's where we are. I would like to hear committee comment and then we'll go. And I thank you for going overtime. And hopefully in the next few months, we'll get everything done. And if we open up, we will do Fort Bragg and Willits like we planned, but who knows? So thank you, everyone.
Are we voting?
There, but
Or we're not voting.
All vote.
Donna, I'm so sorry, but there's 3. There's 2 different lighting adults. We gotta wait for.
Sorry, my bad. So what's the motion on the floor?
The motion is to not recommend the option B for LED lighting. So option C is the one that we have outstanding, and option C, the not the retrofit, but the full replacement at 19,154.
Madam Chair, could we ask for clarification from the maker of the motion? I had thought it had referred to both B and C.
Clarification.
So the maker of the motion says this conversation has gone on way too long. I'm withdrawing my motion. That simple, because we've made motions, they're clear, and every time the clear motions are made, someone wants to clarify the motion. So the maker of the motion has withdrawn his motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Allman. That makes it very easy. Appreciate it. So we will move on to 4A committee member reports. And if anybody has.
To be quite honest, Chair, you should ask if anybody else has an alternative motion.
Well, yes, to be honest, I should. I'm going to be honest with you. It's 7:20. Sorry. I'm being very bad, and you are absolutely correct. Does anyone have any problem with Chair Allman's motion?
I understand he withdrew the motion, and if there is no alternative motion, then we'll go on. If anybody else wants to make a motion, this is the time to do it, if I understand correctly.
Yes, you are absolutely correct.
I would like to make a motion that we approve alternate C as we are remodeling this building. It's a one-time expense. I believe new light fixtures for our new behavioral health training center would be in order. So I would like to approve alternate C for $19,154.
So your motion on the floor, Commissioner Myrtle, if I am not incorrect, is for lighting only, not for fire suppression.
Alternate C only.
Allman will second Myrtle's motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Allman. Do I have any committee comment committee comment? Do I have any public comment? Hearing none, give me a roll vote, please. Lily?
Yes, and I just want to let you know Janine did have to leave. She had a meeting at 3:30, so she had to get off. Commissioner Allman?
Aye.
Commissioner Barish?
Yes.
Commissioner Diamond?
Yes.
Commissioner Myrtle?
Yes.
Commissioner Liberty?
No.
Commissioner Riley?
Yes.
Commissioner Weir?
Yes.
And Chair Moschetti.
Yes. Okay. Now, unless I have messed anything else up, we will go to 4A committee reports, and please
Can
call.
I know there were some no votes. Can we please get what the count was on it?
I was all alone, Tom.
Sure.
Okay.
By himself, you know.
Yes.
Sometimes I've been by myself. You know how it is, Tom.
I have the counts if I may. This is Allison.
Yeah.
Hear me? Okay. All right. We have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for, and 2 against. And that was for the adult C.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's move
Wait,
on.
I'm sorry. Who was the other against? I only heard one.
I only heard one too, and that was Rossi.
I don't think she counted Dr. Miller.
Okay, so Dr. Miller abstained. She didn't
She
say
wasn't
no.
here.
She wasn't here.
But
so.
she would have voted with me, I'm sure.
Oh,
I'll rewatch the video as always when I do my minutes.
all right, guys. I would like to hear from each of you just as to what you're going to do. I don't care about Measure B. I want to know what's happening in 2021. Come on, guys. This is our report time. Let's go. Call on them, Lily.
Commissioner Riley?
Nothing to report.
Commissioner Rich?
I would just say on the mental health services front that the provider shortage is acute and that does impact facilities down the line. So important to keep in mind as we're planning.
Commissioner Weir,
Nothing to report.
Commissioner Liberty,
Got nothing.
Commissioner Myrtle,
Nothing to report. I don't want to keep you any longer.
Commissioner Diamond,
Yeah, my only report is that we work really hard together as a committee and community under some difficult conditions. And I just want to appreciate everybody, specifically our chair today, who's had to chair a meeting under really hard circumstances. So I just want to appreciate this group that works hard, and it's difficult sometimes. That's all.
Commissioner Barish,
Nothing to report.
and Commissioner Allman.
Nothing to report.
And Chair Moschetti.
Wonderful. I appreciate everyone's commitment to this. This is really tight. This is about people who don't have any voice. And I really appreciate whether we agree or whether we disagree. This is really good, and I appreciate it. And thank you for your time. And we'll see you next month.